I want you to imagine this moment with me slowly, as if we are standing together at the very beginning of a long and gentle road, a road that knows your past, understands your worries, and still invites you forward with a warm smile. And I want you to hear my voice not as a teacher or as a coach, but almost like a guide walking beside you, speaking softly so you can relax, breathe, and enjoy the story that is about to unfold, because this story is not just a story, it is a journey that teaches you the art of clear and logical thinking, a way of seeing the world that makes difficult ideas simple, that turns confusion into clarity, and that helps you speak and understand English with more confidence every single day and maybe right now. As you listen, you can feel a small curiosity growing inside you, something gentle, something warm, something that asks, what if I could really think more clearly? What if I could explain my ideas in English with calm, logical confidence? What if understanding the world could feel easier than it feels now? And if you feel that curiosity, hold it for a moment like a small light in your hands, because that light will guide you through this entire long journey, through the story of a young man named Adam. A man who once lived in a world of noise and rush, a man who felt lost in his own thoughts, a man who believed he was not smart enough to understand complicated ideas, a man who believed he would never feel confident speaking in English, and yet, through a journey that surprised him, challenged him, and changed him, he discovered something powerful inside himself, something quiet but strong, something he never noticed before, and this discovery did not come from books or fancy lessons. It came from learning the art of clear and logical thinking, and as you listen to his story, you will learn this art too, step by step, slowly, naturally, and gently, until you feel the change inside you as well. Our story begins on a cold morning in a small town near the sea, where Adam worked in a tiny bookstore that always smelled like paper, coffee, and old stories, and even though the bookstore looked peaceful from the outside, Adam's mind was not peaceful at all. Because inside him there was always noise, thoughts jumping everywhere, ideas starting but never finishing, questions without answers, and every day he felt as if he was running after his own thinking but never catching it, and when customers came in and asked him questions in English, he felt even more lost, because he could understand some words, but not the whole meaning, and when he tried to answer, his words came out messy, unclear, or confused, and this made him feel small, almost invisible, like someone who could not connect with the world around him, and every evening when he walked home, he would tell himself, I wish I could speak better, I wish I could think better, I wish I could explain myself clearly, but the next morning, the same confusion returned as if nothing had changed. One day, when the wind was stronger than usual and the sea outside the town looked dark and nervous, an old man entered the bookstore, a man with calm eyes and a slow smile, a man who walked as if he had all the time in the world, and when he came to the counter, he looked at Adam and said in a deep, gentle voice, "You look like someone who thinks too much and understands too little," and Adam was surprised because no one had ever said something like that to him so directly, yet so kindly, so he did not feel offended, he only felt seen, truly seen, and he quietly answered, "Yes, I think that is true," and the old man nodded slowly, then placed a small book on the counter, a book with a dark blue cover and no title, and he said, "This book is not like other books. It does not give answers. It gives the right questions, and if you follow them carefully, they will lead you to the art of clear thinking." Adam frowned slightly because he did not understand, but the old man only smiled, paid for the book, and, before leaving, he added, "If you want to change your thinking, do not run from confusion. Walk through it slowly." And with that, the old man left the bookstore, his coat moving like a quiet shadow behind him. That night, Adam sat on his small bed, holding the mysterious book in his hands, feeling a strange mix of excitement and fear, and when he opened it, he found something unexpected. The first page had only one sentence written in small, soft handwriting that read, Clear thinking begins when you stop trying to think fast, and Adam read it again and again, letting the words move slowly across his mind. And suddenly he noticed something he had never noticed before. He always tried to think fast, because he believed that fast thinking meant smart thinking. But in reality, his fast thinking only created more confusion. And as he sat there in the quiet room with the sound of the sea outside, he felt for the first time a small sense of calm, as if someone had lifted a heavy weight off his mind. The next morning, when Adam opened the bookstore, he carried the blue book with him, hoping to understand more, but the book did not have chapters or explanations. It only had simple questions, one on each page, questions that made him pause, questions that made him breathe, questions like, "What do you really mean?" And "What is the simplest way to say this?" And "If this idea were a small stone, what shape would it be?" And even though the questions sounded strange, Adam noticed something interesting. Every time he tried to answer one of them in his mind, his thoughts slowed down, became more organized, more gentle, more orderly, and this made him feel something he had not felt in a long time: clarity. But clarity does not come without challenge, and very soon, Adam faced a difficult moment that tested everything he had begun to learn. A woman came into the bookstore looking for a book about famous inventors, and she spoke quickly, much too quickly for Adam, and her words jumped around like birds flying in different directions, and he felt panic rising inside him the way it always did. But this time, something new happened, because he remembered the first question from the blue book. "What do you really mean?" And instead of freezing or apologizing, he took a breath, smiled gently, and said in slow, simple English, "I want to help you. Can you please repeat that more slowly?" And the woman stopped, looked at him, and laughed kindly as she said, "Of course. Sorry, I was speaking too fast." And when she repeated her request at a slower speed, Adam understood her perfectly, and for the first time, he felt a small but powerful victory inside himself, the kind of victory that whispers, "You're changing." Days passed, and every evening Adam read a little more from the blue book, and the more he read, the more he understood that clear thinking is not about being perfect, not about being clever, not about having all the answers, but about slowing down enough to see what was already in front of him. And one night, when he reached the middle of the book, he found a small story inside it, written in the same soft handwriting, a story about a river that carried too many leaves. And because it carried too many leaves, the water could not move cleanly, and everything became stuck. And the story said that the river did not need to change its direction or become faster. It only needed to let go of the leaves, one by one, slowly, patiently, until the water became clear again. And when Adam read this, he felt something in his chest loosen, because he realized that his mind was like that river, full of leaves, doubts, fears, worries, unfinished ideas, and if he wanted to think clearly, he did not need to force himself or push harder. He only needed to remove one leaf at a time. But the moment that truly changed him came on a rainy afternoon when the old man unexpectedly returned to the bookstore, his coat wet, his hair gray and wild from the wind, and Adam felt both nervous and excited as he watched him enter. And before Adam could speak, the old man asked, "Have you started to hear your thoughts more clearly?" And Adam nodded, smiling shyly, and told him about the small victories he had experienced, the slower conversations, the calmer mind, the simpler explanations. And the old man listened carefully, then said, "Good. But now comes the harder part. Now you must learn to think not only clearly, but logically, with structure, with steps, with order, like a quiet path in the forest." Adam swallowed, feeling fear mixed with curiosity, and asked, "How do I learn that?" And the old man answered, "By walking with me tomorrow morning before sunrise." And then, without explaining anything more, he left. That night, Adam could hardly sleep, and when he finally closed his eyes, The sound of the sea felt louder than usual, as if calling him towards something he did not fully understand, and before he knew it, the morning arrived, dark and cold, and Adam found himself standing outside the bookstore waiting for the old man, shivering slightly but feeling awake in a deeper way, and when the old man arrived, he nodded and began walking toward the forest outside the town, saying nothing, letting the silence guide them, and Adam followed, hearing only the sound of their footsteps and the soft breathing of the trees. When they reached the edge of the forest, the old man finally spoke, saying, "Inside this forest is the secret of logical thinking. But it is not a secret written on paper. It is a secret you must feel," and Adam frowned slightly, unsure of what he meant, but he followed him deeper into the trees until they reached a small path that looked almost invisible, a path covered with tiny stones and soft leaves. And the old man pointed to it and said, "This is the path of clarity. Every step you take teaches you to think in order." They walked, slowly, gently, carefully, and as they walked, the old man asked simple questions in English, one at a time, waiting for Adam to think before answering. "What do you notice first? Why is that important? What happens next? What is the connection between these two ideas?" And Adam found that answering these questions was not difficult, only different. A new way of moving his mind, a new rhythm, a new calmness, and each answer made him feel more in control of his thoughts, more awake, more alive. When they finally reached the end of the path, the sun was rising behind the trees, painting the world with soft orange light, and the old man turned to Adam and said, "You see, logic is not cold. Logic is not hard. Logic is simply the gentle step that follows the step before it," and Adam realized that for the first time in his life, he was not afraid of thinking. He was not fighting his thoughts, he was walking with them. And as they walked back through the forest, Adam felt something inside him shift, a quiet transformation, a new strength growing deep in his chest, the kind of strength that does not shout but whispers, the kind of strength that says, "You can understand. You can explain. You can think clearly. You can think logically." And when he returned to the town and opened the bookstore that morning, everything looked a little different, a little brighter, a little more possible. And this is where the first part of our long journey ends, with Adam standing at the doorway of a new way of thinking, feeling the soft morning light on his face, holding the quiet power he had discovered inside himself, ready for whatever came next. Ready to continue learning the art of clear and logical thinking, ready to grow, ready to change, ready to become the version of himself he had always wanted to be. And as you listen to his story, you will learn these skills too, slowly, naturally, step by step, until your thoughts shine with the same clarity he is beginning to feel now. Imagine the morning after Adam's first walk with the old man, a morning where the air feels lighter, almost as if the entire town is breathing calmly with him, and he wakes up with a sense of curiosity that is stronger than the tiredness in his body. Because something inside him has changed, something small but important, something like the quiet click of a door that has finally unlocked after many years of waiting, and as he sits on the edge of his bed, looking at the soft gray light coming through the window, he realizes that the confusion that normally sits on his shoulders the moment he opens his eyes is not as heavy today, almost as if some of it stayed behind in the forest, resting somewhere between the trees where he walked yesterday. And he takes a deep breath, feeling a gentle calmness move through his chest, and for the first time in a long time, he whispers to himself, "Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can really learn to think clearly." And those words feel new in his mouth, warm and real, like a promise he hasn't made before, and without thinking too much, he puts on his shoes, picks up the small blue book, and steps outside into the cool morning world. As he walks to the bookstore, He notices little details he used to walk past, the sound of the ocean hitting the rocks far away, the smell of fresh bread coming from the bakery on the corner, the soft voices of two old women talking quietly near the street fountain, the gentle way the clouds move across the sky, and all these tiny details feel connected somehow, as if they belong to one story, one picture, one idea, and Adam finds himself thinking, maybe this is what clear thinking feels like. Maybe it's not loud or fast. Maybe it's quiet and simple, and that thought makes him smile without even noticing. When he opens the bookstore, the familiar smell of paper, dust, and old stories surrounds him like a warm blanket, and he begins arranging the new books on the shelves. But today, he doesn't rush from one thing to another like he usually does. He moves slowly, placing each book with calm hands, and as he works, the blue book sits open on the counter next to him, showing a new page he has not read yet, a page with a short sentence written in the same soft handwriting. Logic is the art of making your steps visible, and Adam reads this again and again, feeling the meaning unfold inside him like a quiet unfolding of a leaf, and he whispers, making my steps visible, trying to understand, and he wonders, what steps? Steps of what? Thoughts? Ideas, and before he can finish the thought, the small bell above the door rings and a man enters the bookstore. This man is tall, nervous-looking, with glasses that keep sliding down his nose, and he walks quickly to the counter and says in a fast, worried voice, "Do you have the book about the logic puzzles? The old one? From the author Anderson? I need it today. I have a test. It's important. I really need it now." And his words come out like a burst of wind, messy and tangled, and for a moment Adam feels the old familiar panic rise inside him. The same panic he felt every time someone spoke too quickly or too chaotically. But then he remembers the old man's voice in the forest saying, "Logic is simply the gentle step that follows the step before it," and something inside him shifts. Quietly but powerfully, and instead of panicking, he slows his breathing. He lets the rush settle like dust falling back to the ground, and he says in calm, slow English, "Let's take one step at a time. First, tell me the name of the author," and the man stops, blinks, and repeats slowly, "Anderson," and Adam nods, feeling steadier now, and says, "Good. Next, the name of the book," and the man says, "Logic Puzzles for Beginners," and Adam nods again, gently guiding the conversation, saying, "And now, one more step. When did you last see the book here?" And the man relaxes a little as he answers, 2 weeks ago, on that shelf," and Adam smiles softly, walks to the shelf, and finds the book almost immediately, handing it to the man, who looks relieved and grateful as he says, "Thank you. I needed someone to slow me down," and Adam smiles again, thinking to himself, "I needed that too." After the man leaves, Adam feels a small victory in his chest, a warm sense of progress, because this time he did not lose himself in the other person's confusion. He stayed calm inside the storm. He guided the conversation step by step. And this makes him think about the sentence in the blue book again, "Logic is the art of making your steps visible," and he realizes that he just did that, not with complicated ideas, not with difficult words, but with simple steps, clear steps, visible steps. And he whispers to himself, maybe I'm really learning. Hours pass as customers come and go, the soft rhythm of the bookstore filling the day like a quiet song, and each interaction feels a little clearer than before, a little more ordered, a little more controlled. And Adam begins to enjoy the feeling of clarity growing inside him. But clarity is not a straight line, and soon the day brings him a challenge he does not expect, a challenge that tests the new calmness he has been building. Late in the afternoon, a young girl enters the store holding a piece of paper filled with notes, drawings, and English words written in all directions, almost like a storm trapped on a page, and she walks to Adam with worried eyes, saying, "I need help. I have to give a presentation in English tomorrow about how the heart works, but I don't understand my own notes, and when I speak, everything sounds messy, and I'm scared." And Adam feels a deep sympathy for her because he knows exactly what it feels like to have thoughts that feel like storms, and he gently takes the paper from her hands and looks at it closely, and at first glance, the notes look terribly confusing. Arrows going in every direction, unfinished sentences, incomplete diagrams, random ideas written in the margins, and for a moment he feels the old dizziness of confusion rising again. But then, as he looks at the messy notes, something inside him clicks, something he learned from the old man in the forest. When everything feels chaotic, find the first step. Always begin with the first step. So he takes a breath, points to the center of the page where the girl has drawn a small, simple heart, and says softly, "Let's begin here. This is your first step." And the girl looks at him, surprised but hopeful, and he continues, "Tell me, what is the heart?" And she answers, a muscle," and he nods, "Good. And what does this muscle do?" And she thinks for a second and says, "It pumps blood," and Adam smiles gently, encouragingly, "Perfect. That's your second step." "And why does the heart need to pump blood?" And she answers, "To send oxygen to the body," and Adam nods again, "That's your third step." Now you already have a clear beginning for your presentation, and the girl's eyes brighten with relief, and as he helps her organize the rest of her notes into simple, visible steps, he feels something powerful. He is not just learning to think clearly for himself, he is helping someone else think clearly too, and this makes him feel both strong and connected, as if he is finally part of something bigger than his own private struggles. When the girl leaves the bookstore, smiling and clutching her now organized notes, Adam sits quietly behind the counter, feeling the quiet joy of helping someone with his new skills, and as he opens the blue book again, he finds the next sentence waiting for him like a soft whisper. To think logically is to walk slowly through your own mind, and when he reads it, he feels a warm truth inside it, because that is exactly what he has been practicing, walking slowly, gently, step by step, through the forest of his thoughts, and with each slow step, the world around him becomes more understandable, more connected, more peaceful. But the day is not over yet, and the biggest moment of growth arrives suddenly, unexpectedly, in the form of a conversation Adam has been avoiding for a long time. Just before closing time, his boss, Mr. Rowan, an older man with a serious face and a deep voice, calls him into the small office at the back of the store, and as Adam enters, he feels his stomach tighten with old fear. Because every time Mr. Rowan speaks with him, Adam feels nervous, unsure, and confused, and Mr. Rowan begins speaking quickly about inventory, sales numbers, customer service improvements, new book orders, and the daily management tasks Adam needs to help with, and Adam feels his heart start to beat too fast, his breathing becoming short, his thoughts beginning to slip away, but then he remembers the old man's teaching. When the world becomes too loud, slow your steps, and he gently raises his hand and says, "Mr. Rowan, can we take this one step at a time?" And Mr. Rowan looks at him with surprise, then raises an eyebrow and slowly nods. So Adam begins again, calmly. "First, what is the most important thing you want me to understand today?" And Mr. Rowan thinks for a moment, then says, "We need to organize the new books arriving tomorrow morning," and Adam nods, saying, "Good. That is step one." "And what is step two?" And Mr. Rowan continues, "The shelves in the back room need to be cleaned before the books arrive," and Adam nods again, "Perfect. Step three?" And Mr. Rowan says, "After organizing the new books, we need to update the catalog," and Adam quietly repeats the 3 steps aloud, clearly, slowly, and Mr. Rowan watches him with a new expression, almost impressed. And when Adam finishes repeating the steps, Mr. Rowan says softly, "I've never seen you so clear before." This is good. When Adam leaves the office, he feels tall, almost as if he is walking on air, because this time he did not get lost in confusion or panic. He used clear steps to organize the conversation. And in doing so, he changed the entire energy of the interaction, and that makes him think again of the forest, of the quiet path under the trees, of the old man's calm voice asking simple questions, and Adam feels grateful for the old man. Grateful for the blue book, grateful for this new way of thinking that is beginning to grow inside him like a slow, steady light. As he locks the door of the bookstore and walks slowly home through the cool evening air, he feels the day settling inside him like warm tea filling his chest, and he thinks about all the small transformations he experienced, helping the nervous man, guiding the young girl, speaking confidently with his boss, and he realizes that each of these moments happened because he used the same gentle structure, the same simple truth, one step at a time, visible steps, slow steps. And as he reaches his house, he feels tired but peaceful, and when he sits on his bed and opens the blue book, he finds only one sentence on the next page. Clear thinking is a journey, not a moment, and Adam whispers those words softly into the quiet room, feeling them settle into his heart, and he knows they are true, because he is in the middle of that journey now, walking slowly but surely toward a new way of being, a new way of understanding, a new way of expressing himself, and he knows that tomorrow the old man will meet him again, and together they will walk deeper into the art of logical thinking. He closes the book gently, lies down, and listens to the sound of the ocean in the distance, and as he closes his eyes, he feels the soft rhythm of his breath, calm and steady, a reminder that clarity is growing inside him, little by little, step by step, like a quiet forest taking shape in his mind. And with that soft sense of peace, Adam drifts into sleep, ready for the next part of the journey, ready for the next discovery, ready to continue learning how to think clearly, how to organize his thoughts like a path through the trees, ready to let the world make sense in ways it never did before. And as he sleeps, the moonlight touches the blue book resting on his table, as if guarding the lessons waiting for him in the morning. Imagine waking up before the sun has fully risen, when the sky is still a soft blue-gray color, the kind that makes the world feel quiet, calm, and almost untouched. And this is exactly how Adam wakes up the next morning, slowly, gently, with the soft sound of the ocean outside his window reminding him that his journey is continuing, that today he will take another step toward clear and logical thinking. And as he stretches his arms and sits up in bed, he feels a warm sense of purpose in his chest, a feeling that surprises him because normally mornings bring confusion, heaviness, or worry. But today he feels different, as if the forest, the blue book, and the old man have all planted small seeds inside him, seeds of clarity, seeds of strength, seeds of understanding, and those seeds are beginning to grow quietly, naturally, one moment at a time. He gets dressed slowly, carefully, choosing comfortable clothes because he knows the old man will ask him to walk again, and he picks up the small blue book from the table, running his fingers over the cover the way someone might touch something precious, something familiar, something connected to their future, and before leaving the house, he whispers to himself, one step at a time, repeating the phrase like a gentle reminder, a small promise, a guiding light for the day ahead. When Adam walks outside, the air feels cold in a way that wakes every part of him, and the town is still half asleep, with closed windows, quiet streets, and only a few birds beginning their morning songs. And as he walks toward the edge of the forest where he met the old man yesterday, He feels a mix of excitement and nervousness. Excitement because he wants to learn more. Nervousness because he doesn't know what the old man will teach him today, and he wonders, will it be harder? Will it be confusing? Will I fail? But he quickly pushes these thoughts aside, reminding himself of the simple truth he learned yesterday. Clear thinking begins when you slow down. So he slows his steps, slows his breathing, slows his thoughts, and by the time he reaches the forest, the sun is rising gently behind the trees, painting them with soft gold light. The old man is already there, standing calmly with his hands behind his back, looking almost like part of the forest itself, strong, quiet, still, and when he sees Adam, he smiles with the kind of smile that makes you feel welcome without words and says, "Good. You came." Today we walk a different path, and Adam feels curiosity bloom inside him like a small flower opening. The old man turns and begins walking deeper into the forest, and Adam follows closely behind him, listening to the soft sounds of leaves moving under their feet, and after a few minutes, they reach a place where the trees open into a clearing, and directly ahead is a tall hill, almost like a small mountain, covered in stones, roots, and narrow steps that look uneven and old. The old man stops at the bottom of the hill and says, "This is the mountain of understanding," and Adam looks at the long climb ahead of him and feels both intimidated and fascinated, and he asks quietly, "Why do we need to climb it?" And the old man answers, "Because clear thinking is not only about slowing down. It is also about seeing from above. Logic shows you each step, but understanding shows you the whole path." Adam takes a deep breath as the old man begins climbing, and he follows him, one careful step at a time, feeling the uneven ground beneath his feet, the cool wind around his face, the soft sounds of birds above them, and at first the climb feels easy, almost peaceful, but the higher he goes, the more he feels his legs burning, his breath shortening, and his mind beginning to complain. This is too hard. Why are we doing this? Why does climbing help me think clearly? And the old man suddenly speaks without turning around, as if he heard Adam's thoughts, saying, "When the climb becomes difficult, the mind becomes noisy. This is when you must find clarity." Adam is surprised, wondering how the old man always seems to understand what is happening inside him, and he keeps climbing, trying to focus, trying to breathe slower, trying to quiet the noise inside his head. Halfway up the mountain, the old man stops and says, "Tell me what you see," and Adam looks around, noticing the forest from this higher place, the tops of the trees, the curve of the river, the shape of the distant town, the ocean far away shining under the morning light, and he says, "I see everything more clearly," and the old man nods, "That is understanding. When you rise above your problems, you see connections, patterns, reasons. You see the whole truth, not just pieces," and something inside Adam softens as he hears this, something deep and quiet, like an inner door opening. They continue climbing, and the higher they go, the stronger the wind becomes, and Adam has to steady himself with his hands, gripping rocks, focusing on each step, and his thoughts begin to feel loud again. What if I fall? What if I can't reach the top? What if this climb never ends? But the old man speaks again, his voice calm and steady, saying, "When your mind is loud, speak your thoughts slowly," and Adam, breathing heavily, tries this, whispering to himself, "I am climbing. I am safe." One step at a time, and he finds that repeating these slow, simple words helps silence the noise, helps clear his thoughts, helps calm the fear. Finally, after many long minutes, they reach the top of the mountain, and Adam stands there with his hands on his knees, trying to catch his breath, feeling tired but alive, exhausted but strong, and when he lifts his head, his breath catches for a different reason. The view is unbelievably beautiful. From the top, He can see everything, the forest spreading like a green ocean beneath them, the town looking small and peaceful, the river winding like a silver ribbon, the sea stretching endlessly toward the horizon, and the early sunlight turning everything into soft gold, and Adam stands completely still, letting the beauty enter him, letting the world make sense in a way it never has before. The old man walks to the edge of the rock and stands beside Adam, saying, "This is understanding. When you rise high enough inside your mind, the world becomes clear." For a long moment, they stand in silence, breathing the cold mountain air, watching the world from above, and then the old man says softly, "Tell me, Adam, what is happening inside you right now?" And Adam tries to find the words, tries to translate the feeling inside him into language, and finally says, "It feels peaceful. Simple. Like my thoughts are not fighting anymore. Like everything has a place," and the old man nods with satisfaction. "Good. That is the beginning of understanding. And now you must learn the next lesson. Understanding comes from asking the right questions." Adam listens carefully as the old man continues, his voice slow and gentle like a teacher who knows the student is ready, and he says, "There are questions that open the mind and questions that close it. There are questions that bring clarity and questions that bring confusion. To think clearly, you must learn to ask the questions that open your mind," and Adam nods slowly, feeling the truth of these words settle inside him like soft stones. The old man continues, "When you face a problem, do not ask, 'Why is this so difficult?' That question closes your mind. Instead ask, 'What is the first small part of this problem?' That question opens your mind. When you feel confused, do not ask, 'What is wrong with me?' That question hurts your confidence. Instead ask, 'What part of this is not clear yet?' That question helps you grow. And when you want to understand something deeply, ask, 'What am I not seeing?' Because understanding comes from discovering what is missing, not from repeating what you already know." As Adam listens, he feels something powerful happening inside him, a shift, a deep realization, a moment of new awareness, and he whispers, "So, clear thinking begins with clear questions," and the old man smiles, "Yes. Clear questions create clear answers. Confusing questions create confusion." Adam looks out at the world again from the top of the mountain and lets this idea sink in, feeling how true it is, how simple, how logical, and he wonders why he never thought this way before, why he always blamed himself for being confused instead of asking better questions. The old man turns toward him and says, "Now, Adam, it is your turn. Ask me a question, but make it a clear one." And Adam hesitates, his mind suddenly blank, as if all words have fallen out, but he takes a slow breath, grounding himself in the calmness of the mountain, and he remembers the forest, the path, the slow steps. And then, in a soft voice, he asks, "What is the difference between knowing something and understanding it?" And the old man smiles, as if he has been waiting for this exact question, and he answers, "Knowing is seeing a tree. Understanding is seeing the forest. Knowing is the first step. Understanding is the whole path. You can know a fact without understanding how it fits into the bigger picture. But when you understand, everything connects." Adam repeats these words quietly inside his mind, feeling each one slowly, like someone tasting a new flavor, and he realizes that this explains much of his past confusion. He often memorized information, but he never understood how different parts connected to each other, and suddenly he feels a warm wave of clarity wash over him, a feeling of things clicking into place. The old man places a hand on Adam's shoulder and says, "You have taken an important step today. But remember, the climb does not end at the top. The climb ends when you bring what you learned back down to the world." So they begin their descent, walking carefully, feeling the earth beneath their feet, and as they go down, Adam notices something interesting. The path looks easier on the way down, clearer, more familiar. And he realizes that this is exactly how understanding works. Once you climb through a difficult idea, once you reach the top and see everything from above, the path that felt confusing before suddenly becomes simple. And this realization makes him smile with quiet gratitude. When they reach the bottom of the mountain again, the old man stops and turns to Adam with a thoughtful expression, saying, "Now your task is to use what you learned today in the world below, in conversations, in decisions, in your work, in your English speaking. Understanding must become part of your daily thinking." And Adam nods, feeling ready, feeling open, feeling strong. The old man begins walking toward the forest path again, but before he goes too far, he looks back and adds, "Tomorrow, we will take the final step, the step where clear thinking becomes natural thinking," and then he disappears into the trees. Adam walks back to town with a slow, peaceful pace, feeling the weight of the lesson, but also the lightness of clarity, and when he arrives at the bookstore, he opens the door and greets the customers with a calm smile, and he notices that his voice sounds different, steadier, clearer, almost as if the mountain is still inside him, still guiding his words. Throughout the day, situations come that would normally confuse him: a customer asking a long question, a problem with a book order, a coworker explaining something quickly, but each time he feels confusion rising, he pauses, breathes, and asks himself, "What is the first small part of this problem?" And each time the answer becomes visible, step by step, clear, simple, manageable, and he realizes that he is truly changing, not just in moments of quiet or in the forest with the old man, but in real life, in daily situations, in English conversations that once scared him. In the evening, as he closes the bookstore and walks home with the gentle evening breeze touching his face, he feels a deep sense of peace, and when he sits on his bed and opens the blue book, he finds a new sentence waiting for him, written with the same soft handwriting as always. "When you understand yourself, you understand the world." And Adam sits quietly for a long moment, letting those words settle into his heart, feeling their weight, their truth, their quiet promise. He closes his eyes, thinking about the mountain, the view, the questions, the calmness, the clarity, and he whispers to himself, "I am learning. I am growing. I am becoming clear." And with that soft, gentle thought, he closes the book and rests, ready for the next part of the journey, ready for the final transformation the old man promised. Imagine the soft light of early morning touching the window of Adam's small room, filling the space with a gentle glow that feels almost like a warm hand resting on his shoulder, and Adam wakes slowly. Not with the confusion that used to rise inside him like a heavy fog, but with a quiet awareness, a gentle sense of curiosity, the kind that makes his eyes open before the alarm rings, the kind that tells him something important is waiting for him today. Something deeper, something more personal. Something that will complete the transformation he has been slowly building through the forest walks, the mountain climb, and the lessons hidden in the soft handwritten sentences of the blue book. And as he sits on the edge of his bed, he feels a strange and peaceful stillness inside himself, almost like the calm surface of a lake before anyone touches it. He takes a slow breath, places his hand gently over his chest, and whispers to himself, "Today is the day," even though he doesn't fully know what that means yet, only that the old man said there would be a final step, a final lesson. A moment where clear thinking becomes natural thinking, and this idea fills Adam with a mixture of excitement and quiet nervousness, the kind of nervousness that makes your hands feel soft and your stomach feel light, not because you are afraid, but because you know you are close to something important, something true. He gets dressed carefully, almost ceremonially, choosing comfortable clothes the way someone might prepare for a special journey, and before leaving his room he looks at the blue book resting on the table, its deep blue cover now familiar, warm, almost alive in the way that certain objects become part of your life when they help you change. And he lifts it into his hands, feeling the calm energy of the words written inside, the words that guided him, challenged him, and held his confusion. Gently like a friend. He slips the book into his coat pocket and steps outside into the cool morning air, feeling the quiet world waking around him, hearing the soft whispers of wind brushing against the rooftops, the distant roar of the ocean, the birds beginning their morning songs. And all of it feels connected to the journey he is walking. As he walks toward the forest, he notices how different he feels compared to when this story began. His steps are slower but stronger. His breathing is deeper and calmer. His thoughts are clearer and more organized. And instead of fearing the day ahead, he feels open to it, ready for whatever lesson the old man will teach him next. When Adam reaches the edge of the forest, the old man is waiting for him, standing with the same quiet presence he always has, his hands folded behind his back, his eyes soft but sharp, watching Adam approach with a small smile that seems to say, "You've grown." And when Adam reaches him, the old man simply nods and says, "Today we take the final walk," and without explaining anything more, he turns and begins walking deeper into the forest. Adam follows, feeling the familiar peace of the trees surrounding him like a gentle shelter, their leaves whispering secrets above him, the forest floor soft under his feet, the cool air brushing his skin. They walk for a long time, longer than usual, and the deeper they go, the quieter the world becomes, until all Adam can hear is the sound of their footsteps and the soft heartbeat of nature around him. After some time, they reach a small clearing Adam has never seen before, a circle of smooth, flat ground surrounded by tall trees, and in the center of the clearing is something unexpected, a large, old mirror, standing upright without any frame, without any support, as if it is growing out of the earth itself. The mirror's surface is clean, shining softly in the morning light, and Adam feels something shift inside him as he looks at it, a feeling of curiosity mixed with vulnerability. The kind of feeling you have when someone sees deeper into you than you can see yourself. The old man steps beside the mirror and says softly, "This is the mirror of inner clarity," and Adam feels a tiny shiver move through him, not of fear but of anticipation, because he understands that this moment is not about the outside world, not about logic or steps or questions, but about himself. The old man looks at Adam gently and says, "Clear thinking begins with the world around you, but natural thinking begins with the world inside you. Today, you will face that world." Adam swallows softly, feeling a bit nervous, because facing yourself is always harder than facing mountains or forests or complicated problems, but he nods, ready to learn. The old man continues, "The mirror shows not what you look like, but how you think. It reflects the shape of your thoughts, the flow of your emotions, the truth behind your confusion, the simplicity behind your fear," and Adam feels his chest tighten slightly, not from fear but from the weight of the moment, because he knows this is the final step. The old man steps aside and gestures toward the mirror. "Stand before it," he says, and Adam walks slowly toward the mirror, each step feeling heavier and lighter at the same time, and when he finally stands in front of it, he sees his reflection, but not exactly the reflection he sees in the bookstore window or in his bathroom mirror. This reflection looks slightly different. His eyes look clearer, deeper, more reflective. His posture looks more honest, more open. His face looks softer but also stronger. And he understands instantly that the mirror is showing him not just his physical form, but the shape of his thinking, the calmness he has built, the order he has learned, the clarity he has begun to grow inside himself. The old man stands behind him and says, "Tell me, Adam, what do you see?" And Adam studies his reflection for a long moment, letting his breath settle, letting the feeling rise slowly, and finally he says, I see myself. But I also see someone new, someone calmer, someone who thinks more slowly, more gently, someone who is not afraid of confusion anymore. And the old man nods with a quiet smile, as if he already knew Adam would say that. Then he says, Good. Now look deeper. Adam takes another slow breath and looks deeper into the mirror, not at his eyes or his face, but at the feeling beneath them, the pattern of thoughts inside him, and he begins to notice things. The way his thoughts used to jump quickly like frightened birds, but now move more calmly like waves. The way his emotions used to blur his understanding, but now sit quietly, letting him think clearly. The way fear used to control him, but now stands behind him, not in front of him, the way English once. A tangled storm of sounds now feels more like a slow river he can follow step by step. And Adam says, almost in a whisper, I see clarity. Not perfect clarity, but clarity growing. The old man steps closer and says softly, and now, the most important question, what is still unclear inside you? Adam feels his heart pause for a moment, because this question reaches deep inside, deeper than the forest, deeper than the mountain, deeper than anything he has faced before, and he looks at his reflection again, searching, listening, waiting for the honest answer to rise. After a long silence, he says quietly, I still doubt myself sometimes. I still wonder if I'm doing enough. I still fear making mistakes when I speak English. I still worry that people will not understand me. And sometimes I feel small. His voice trembles slightly at the last word, not from weakness, but from honesty, and the old man places a gentle hand on Adam's back and says, Good. When you name your doubt, you lessen its power. When you see your fear, you weaken it. When you say the truth out loud, the confusion begins to disappear. Adam nods slowly, feeling a warm wave of understanding move through him, and the old man continues, Clear thinking is not a life without fear. It is a life where fear does not lead your steps. Clear thinking is not a life without doubt. It is a life where doubt becomes a question, not an obstacle. Adam lets these words settle into him like soft stones, forming a strong path inside his mind. Then the old man says, Now ask the mirror a question, and Adam, surprised, asks, What question should I ask? But the old man shakes his head gently and says, The mirror reflects your inner thinking. You must ask the question that opens your own mind. Adam takes a deep breath, closes his eyes for a moment, and listens inside himself to the quiet voice that has been growing stronger during his journey, and finally he opens his eyes and asks the mirror, What truth about myself am I not seeing yet? He waits, watching the mirror carefully, and slowly, very slowly, the reflection seems to shift, not dramatically, not magically, but gently, as if another layer of truth is settling on its surface, and Adam sees something he didn't expect. He sees strength. Real strength. Not loud strength, not dramatic strength, but quiet strength, the strength of someone who has walked through confusion, faced his own doubts, learned to slow his thoughts, learned to see clearly, learned to guide his mind step by step, learned to speak with more calmness and clarity. He sees someone who is capable, someone who cares deeply, someone who is growing, someone who is not small at all. And he whispers, I didn't see that before, and the old man says, but it was always there. Adam feels his eyes warm with emotion, not sadness, but relief, the kind of relief that comes when you finally recognize your own value after years of feeling lost or unsure. Then the old man speaks the final lesson, the one that ties everything together, the one that completes the journey. Clear and logical thinking begins outside you in steps, in questions, in understanding. But natural thinking begins when you trust yourself, when you trust your calmness, when you trust your slow steps, when you trust that your mind knows how to find clarity when you allow it to breathe, to listen, to think without fear. Adam stands there, letting the final lesson settle into him like the final piece of a puzzle fitting perfectly into place, and he feels something inside him open wide, a deep sense of self-trust, a quiet confidence he has never felt before, a belief that he can understand himself, understand the world, and express himself clearly, even when things are complicated, even when he feels nervous, even when he speaks English. And with this new feeling growing inside him, he whispers, "I understand," not loudly, not dramatically, but with a soft certainty that feels stronger than shouting. The old man steps beside him and says, "Good. The journey now continues without me," and Adam feels a small sadness rise in his chest, the sadness you feel when someone important has helped you grow, but also gratitude, warm and full, because he knows the old man has given him everything he needs. The old man places his hand gently on Adam's shoulder and says, "Remember, clarity is not something you hold. It is something you practice every day in your thoughts, in your words, in your choices, and especially in the way you speak to yourself." And this is how the fourth part of his journey ends, not with a dramatic moment, but with a quiet transformation reflected in a mirror, a transformation that will guide him into the final chapter, where clarity becomes part of how he lives, how he speaks, how he understands, and how he grows every day. The morning light falls softly through the window as Adam wakes, not with the heavy fog of doubt or confusion that once greeted him, but with a sense of quiet purpose, a steady rhythm in his chest that tells him today is another day to practice what he has learned. And as he sits on the edge of his bed, he feels the gentle strength of the mountain climb, the calm reflection in the mirror, the lessons hidden in the soft blue book, and he knows that the journey is no longer only about understanding or learning from the old man. The journey is about living clarity in the real world, in every thought, every choice, every conversation, every step he takes, and he feels a quiet smile form as he whispers to himself, "I can do this." Because the words now carry weight, not as encouragement, but as truth. He dresses carefully, not because he is afraid of the day, but because he wants to begin it with intention, with care, with respect for himself and the world around him, and as he steps outside, he notices the familiar town stretching around him. Familiar but new, the streets brighter in his awareness, the morning sounds clearer, the air fresher, as if the world itself is responding to the clarity he has begun to carry inside him. He walks slowly toward the bookstore, feeling the rhythm of his steps and the rhythm of his thoughts sinking in a quiet harmony, noticing things he never noticed before, the shape of the clouds, the pattern of leaves on a tree, the gentle curve of the rooftops, the way the sunlight hits the pavement, small details that reveal order in the world when he slows down, when he asks the right questions, when he allows himself to see clearly, and he remembers the old man's words about asking questions that open the mind, and Adam begins practicing them silently as he walks. What is the first small part of this moment? What is the truth I can see here? What am I not noticing yet? And with each question, he feels his mind opening, organizing, understanding, not in a rush, not in panic, but with gentle curiosity, like a river slowly cutting its path through the earth. When Adam enters the bookstore, he greets the customers with a soft, calm voice, noticing that his words now flow with a natural rhythm, a clarity that he did not have before, and when a customer asks a complicated question about finding a book, Adam listens carefully, without interrupting or rushing, letting the question settle in his mind, breaking it down into smaller parts, and then answering step by step, clearly, logically and warmly, noticing the relief on the customer's face when they finally understand. And Adam feels a quiet satisfaction, not prideful, not showy, just the deep joy of understanding and helping someone else understand, the kind of joy that comes from being fully present, fully aware, fully clear. Throughout the morning, small challenges arise: a misplaced order, a customer who asks 2 questions at once, a coworker explaining a new system too quickly, but Adam handles each one differently from before. He pauses, breathes slowly, identifies the first small part of the problem, asks himself what is clear and what is confusing, and then proceeds, step by step, asking himself questions that guide his thinking and words that explain clearly to others. Noticing that the fear he once felt no longer controls him, that confusion is no longer overwhelming, and that clarity, once learned in the forest and on the mountain, has become a living, breathing part of him. During a quiet moment, Adam sits down at the counter with his blue book, opens it, and reads the familiar words. When you understand yourself, you understand the world, and he feels their truth more deeply than ever. He writes a new sentence in the blank space below. Clarity is practice, patience, and presence, feeling the rhythm of each word as he writes it slowly, intentionally, and realizing that learning English, learning to think clearly, learning to live fully, it is all part of the same process: noticing, slowing down, asking questions, and trusting oneself. By afternoon, Adam decides to practice something new, speaking with a small group of learners who have come to the bookstore for an English conversation session. Beginners who are nervous, hesitant, unsure, like Adam once was. He greets them warmly, makes eye contact, and begins the session with a story from his own journey, telling them about the forest, the blue book, the mountain, and the mirror, using simple words, slow sentences, and pauses that give the learners time to understand and repeat, noticing that when he slows down, the story becomes easier for him to tell and for others to follow, and when learners ask questions, he uses the techniques he has learned, breaking complex ideas into small parts, asking clear questions to guide their understanding, and listening fully to each response, helping them build clarity as he has built it, feeling the joy of sharing knowledge in a way that is calm, clear, and kind. Throughout the day, Adam notices subtle changes in himself: the way he listens more carefully, the way he responds more logically, the way his thoughts flow more naturally, the way he feels less anxious when he doesn't know something immediately. And he remembers the final lesson from the old man: natural thinking begins when you trust yourself, and he feels that trust grows stronger with each passing moment. He realizes that this trust is not arrogance, not certainty, not rigid control, but a quiet confidence that allows him to face problems, conversations, and decisions without panic, without rushing, and with a calm awareness that the world is complex but not chaotic, that life is full of questions, but each question can be approached with clarity and patience, and that every small step, every small choice, every clear word builds the larger picture of understanding. As evening approaches, Adam closes the bookstore, feeling the satisfaction of a day lived fully, clearly, and he walks home slowly, noticing the sunset painting the sky in soft gold and pink, feeling how the world itself seems more understandable when viewed with patience and clarity, and he reflects on his journey, the confusion he once felt, the challenges he faced, the lessons he learned, the moments of fear and doubt, and the quiet transformations that happened in forests, on mountains, in mirrors, and in simple handwriting, and he understands that the journey is ongoing, that clarity is not a destination, but a daily practice, a continuous process, a gentle companion that grows stronger the more it is noticed and nurtured. At home, Adam sits at his desk with the blue book open, thinking about what he will do next, and he begins to write a final reflection. Clarity is not a skill to earn. It is a habit to live. It is a choice to pause, a choice to notice, a choice to ask questions that open the mind and heart. Each day I practice, I grow. Each conversation, each problem, each word is a step forward. I am learning to think clearly, to speak clearly, to live clearly. He reads the words slowly, letting them sink into his mind and heart, feeling their truth with every breath, every beat, every moment of awareness. As night falls, Adam looks out the window at the quiet town, the stars beginning to appear one by one, and he feels a deep sense of peace and connection. He remembers the old man's final words, "Your thinking is your companion." Treat it gently, and he understands fully now that clarity is not something imposed from outside, not something taught in a lesson or found in a book, but something that lives inside him, something he practices in words, in actions, in reflections, and something that guides him gently through every part of life. Before going to bed, he opens the blue book one last time for the day and writes a simple note for tomorrow. Notice. Pause. Question. Trust. And as he closes the book, he feels calm, ready, alive, aware of himself, aware of the world, aware that clear thinking is no longer just a lesson, but a way of living, that English, clarity, logic, and understanding are all part of a single journey, and that each new day will give him opportunities to practice, to grow, to live with gentle awareness, and with that thought, he lies down, closes his eyes, and rests, knowing that he has not only learned to think clearly, but has begun to live clearly, a transformation that will continue for a lifetime, in every word he speaks, every thought he has, every choice he makes, and every moment he experiences.